goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and Onyx, rider. I get those goosebumps every time.
Newcastle United.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mugs. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC, the fully loaded transfer show. We are back again. We had our fill on Sunday, and we thought, why not talk a little bit more on all things Newcastle United transfers? Because there is more. There is more to discuss, and we've got a heap of stuff to talk you through this show tonight. But first of all, get those likes in the chat. We've got the messages out there. Get your likes in nice and early, and get those tunes in as well. I can see a few sneaking in there in the chat as we go along. But most of all, massive thanks for you to come and join us on this fine Tuesday evening. Boys, how are we today? How are things? What's the weather like where you are? Because I've had to close the blinds because the sunlight's just beaming through. It's a nice day.
We don't like sun, do we? We don't like sun. We definitely don't like pollen, me and you, Pete. But apart from that, all good. We hate pollen. You know what we also have more of? And I should have really told you this, boys, but I never got around to telling you. And it's been there for about 3 weeks or so, and I never told you. We have more stock in our shop. Yes. Now, there's still 10% off everything, and including the new stuff. But I put up some new stuff. So I remember I shared a picture with you guys, and it's kind of us that little bit younger. Well, that's made its way onto a t-shirt. Like so. Fine vintage, great age. That's us looking that little bit younger. That's also on the mug. You can get it on the mug as well. And on top of that, I put in some more stuff. We have an Adidas loaded hoodie now, and it is a proper Adidas garment, and it has, you can buy a different one here. It's Adidas on the side. It's Adidas branded, and there's also a pullover type item as well, and another Adidas one. So go check that out. Chatters, when you get a chance, go check it out. There might be something there that catches your eye, but it's 10% off, so give it a look.
Not only a Newcastle United sponsored by Adidas, so are Loaded.
Yes.
So go check it out right now.
I like it.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I might have to have a little nose after the show and see what's cracking over there. But Chris, how's things? Weather good? What's it like up in the northwest?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Long day in work. I literally logged off about 9 minutes ago. So long day in work, but on a more positive note, yes, lovely weather. It's quite windy, so it's a little bit chilly out there. But the sun is beaming down, and it's nice and bright. I must admit, boys, I do love. The late evenings, where you keep your light up until about like 9 o'clock at night. I love that. So yeah, all good here. And what about yourself, Pete?
All good. Yeah, decent day at work. Just trying to get my back right. Still struggling, still not 100%. In a bit of pain, but we're going in the right direction. But look. It's not going to stop us talking Newcastle United and transfer news. We are here to talk everything. And the builders are in tomorrow.
Oh,
the work begins properly. All the lines have been drawn. All these things have been done. But now big guns are in tomorrow. Cannot wait. Ready. But
Sky Sports won't know what it is. They go live.
Step aside. That's what news. Brilliant stuff. But no, look, we'll get into that when it's done. Maybe even give you a little bit of a tour on one of the shows when it's all up and running and it's done. A little bit of way to go yet, but we will wait and see. Look, boys, as the tunes fly in, and if you got a super chat, want to ask a question, get those super chats in as well, and we'll put them right to the top of the list for top of discussion. I wanted to start with this, boys, just to go through some of the news that's come out. I want to get your thoughts on this. Might not have any thoughts at all regarding this. And it's the news that Craig Hope put out, I believe, yesterday. Or was it today? I can't remember.
Today, I think.
It might have been. Yeah, today. It was today. You are correct, Daz. Forest Chief Ross Wilson, among the names in the frame for the sporting director's role. So the current Forest sporting director is in the frame for this role. And as we're looking out, it says he's well thought of within the game and seen as a professional operator. And crucially, we'll get your thoughts on this as well, boys. This is a remit Nolan are working to, the recruitment. He has Premier League experience. Among those names, as it's been mentioned by Craig Hope. So maybe, just maybe, we might be getting Paul Mitchell's successor sooner than we thought. What do you make of that? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know anything about Ross Wilson until it came out. Did you boys know anything? Just what's your reaction to him being thrown into the mix, Daz?
Well, myself and Ross go way back. We're now friends on LinkedIn since today. No, I did glance at his CV on LinkedIn, but that's it. I didn't go any further. I said I'm still waiting for the Real Madrid lad to come back to me. Don't know about him. Look, but I did think Nottingham Forest, they do a lot of business in Brazil. Their scouting there is in Brazil, but. Was he involved in bringing Chris Wood when Chris Wood was Chris Wood, not Chris Superwood, and Shelby? And that's some of the thoughts that went through my head. But I don't know anything about him. So if he's the right man for the job and he gets on with Eddie, go for it. Let the powers be make the decision.
What do you make of things, Chris? Does it change where you're at with Newcastle United in any way, shape, or form?
It's not really, Pete, no. And you'll remember probably on the last show that I mentioned, for me, I want the group tight-knit. From now till the start of the season, from now till the end of that transfer window, I want this group tight-knit. I don't want any curveballs. I don't want any CEOs coming in, pouring cold water over the plans. I just want the plans to go ahead as they are. Not to say I don't want him to come in, because absolutely it makes sense. The sooner the better. In the sense that they can familiarize themselves with the club, they can get to know what's going on. I just, from my point of view, would rather things be stable from now till the end of the transfer window. We know where we are, and then the person can get involved in the job. But yeah, by all means, if they come in and shadow, or maybe not come in like a bull in a china shop, which apparently the last person who we recruited did, mentioning no names. I want a smooth transition, and hopefully, if this is Eddie Howe approved, that will be great. Someone who Eddie Howe can work with and who gets on with, that would be fantastic. I must admit, when I first saw this link, which I think you posted in the chat, Pete, my overriding feeling was, I wonder how Wolfie will feel about this. That was the first thing I thought. Because like yourselves, I don't know anything about this gentleman. I don't know anything about him, but. If he's as highly sought after and thought of as people are saying, then I'm all for it. Fantastic. I just want this appointment, whoever it is, to be the right appointment and the right fit for Newcastle United. That's all I want. Because I don't want to keep chopping and changing senior management anymore. I think let's just get the right guy in, let him do his job. Hopefully he's not going to cause any upset, and that'll do for me.
Funny you should say about Wolfie, because I did ask him the question. So I'll share with you what he said in response to that. But for me, I wouldn't be fussed about having a sporting director come in now until at the end of the window, or towards the end of the window. So he does what you mentioned, kind of oversees the final knock-ins of the window, and then can get to work for January and beyond. Purely because of what happened with Paul Mitchell, as you mentioned, last summer, comes in and changes the way in which we function as a unit, as a team, as a direction. And I don't want that to happen. We cannot afford for this summer to be derailed in any way, shape, or form. We cannot afford for that to happen. However, I knew nothing about Ross Wilson, so I did ask Wolfie the question, and I will share with you what he said. So when I sent him the link, he mentioned to me that they got him from Rangers. That's where he came from. I think he was previously having looked at Southampton and Huddersfield beforehand. Southampton, a good club, always bring good players in, so you've got good pedigree there. Came from Rangers. Apparently, Rangers hated him and were delighted that he went. No idea why. However, interestingly, Wolfie says he thinks he's done really well at Forest, and the reason why he likes Ross Wilson is because you don't hear anything from him. He's not at the forefront of anything. He's not having pictures and things with players on a regular basis. He's not doing all these interviews. He does all of his work in the background. And that's intrigued me a little bit, because I have to be honest, boys, with Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell, we've had the absolute opposite. They have been in the forefront of everything. Interviews, in pictures with things, constantly in the front line. And that's not really, in my opinion, what a sporting director should be doing, is doing their work in the background. And it should be Eddie Howe and the players that are at the forefront of everything. So that's just my opinion on that. But boys, in response to what Wolfie said, what do you make of that?
It's interesting that Wolfie's default answer is, I'll drive him to the airport. I'll drive him to Newcastle. But no, I think this could be a Newcastle thing, though. Whoever comes in, we will put them a bit front and center, especially for a while, and then it might die off. But I don't know. It's more higher profile in Newcastle with everything that goes with it. So, but no, it's good to get a good report on him. But I know nothing about him really, and I think there'll be more names that'll be linked as well. And I think people have it in the Dougie Freeman as well, back in the chat, or in the chat there. So will he come back into the picture again? Who knows? Who knows what's going on? So we'll there's no mad rush, because this is Eddie's window. He has the power of this window. He can do what he wants. Let's hope he gets what he wants. So this time.
Absolutely. Chris, any thoughts on Wolfie's kind of mini assessment?
The only thing that stood out, Pete, from you saying that was the fact that, in recent times, one of the main criticisms aimed at Darren Eales was the fact that fans felt he could have been a bit more vocal. He could have been a bit more open and transparent with the fan base. So the fact that Ross is seemingly someone who kind of keeps quiet, stays behind the scenes. I don't know whether that will appease a lot of fans. I think a lot of fans would like someone a bit more vocal, someone who, a bit like Mandy and Mairdad, really, somebody who will come out and update the fans on where we are. We all remember, back in the day when Kevin Keegan stood on those famous steps and told us all about Andy Cole, as much as it caused uproar. I think people liked the fact that he was open and honest, with the fan base. I know times have moved on a hell of a lot since then. And maybe Kevin will look back on that and maybe regret doing that. But that would be my only slight concern, in that I do think we need a voice. We do need someone to come out and keep the fan base updated to a point. I'm not suggesting that they tell us every single move they make and what they have for breakfast, but it would be nice to hear a bit more from your CEO to kind of tell you what direction we're in, where we're going. And one of the as I say, one of the things directed at Darren Eales was that he only ever spoke when things were positive. He would never speak when things weren't so positive. So I wonder whether that could be something, that maybe the Newcastle hierarchy will look at. Maybe, I mean, I'm not saying Ross Wilson can't do that. I'm sure he can. But I would hope, that we do have a bit more communication than what we have now. Not asking for the world, not asking for everything, but just somebody who maybe comes out, even every couple of months, just to kind of update it, on major talking points like changing of badges and, ticket allocations and, stadium changes. That would be quite useful, I think, because it causes a lot of speculation and a lot of unrest when we don't hear anything for long periods of time. But that was my overarching feeling anyway, Pete.
Yeah,
that's more CEO. I would think that should be driving that kind of communication.
This is sporting director.
True. Actually, yeah.
So I get it from Darren Eales' point of view, and that's what we'd want absolutely when the CEO comes in. But
apologies, I'm getting roles mixed up, aren't I? Yeah.
As a sporting director, I wouldn't want that. And this is the thing. It goes back to the point: is that now in football we are talking about these roles where we never would have 10, 15, 20 years ago. Even talked about a sporting director. A club might have had it, particularly foreign clubs would have had them, but European clubs, we certainly wouldn't have. Not on a regular, but it's all become a talking point now. And someone's put in the chat quite rightly, Ross Wilson wasn't the only one linked. Jason Ito, who is the assistant sporting director at Arsenal, has also been linked as well. So that's another name up there. Again, a name I'm not too familiar with or know anything about, purely because I don't really do massive research on sporting directors of all clubs. I only know the real high profile ones at the top of the game, really. So yeah, that's why. But look, let's wait and see on that. Now, Sophie is going to be happy with this because what we're going to do in this small section now is just to squash some rumors on certain players, just to cross them off the list and move them on. Because today there's been some confirmation. Piece in the Athletic had confirmed that the following players are not on Newcastle's list this summer. So first of all, this man, Noni Madueke, who we've talked about before, is not a player of interest of Newcastle United, not certainly high up on the list in our thoughts for this summer. Another name that's not also considered of interest this summer is this man, Jack Grealish.
Yes.
Not considered an option this summer. And as it says in the piece right here, Noni Madueke and Jack Grealish, they do not hold an interest on those guys. That's not it. That's not it. There's another guy that's also not of interest this summer. Sophie will be happy. I'm happy. Daz is happy. Chris may not be.
I know it is.
Yeah! Skeleton! Yeah!
Get the Champions League music on. Come on.
Result!
I love it.
Yeah. That's the best celebration we've had in months.
No,
you watch him walk through the door now and Wynn's going to be like, nah.
Yeah.
But no, in the Athletic, we're at peace. Chris Waugh and has put, while soon to be free agent, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not currently under consideration despite previous interest. And mentioned actually, and comes into a further discussion, a forward arriving will partly be dependent on Wilson's future. Now, just in addition to that, Jonathan David was tracked, but is expected to go elsewhere. I think he was linked with Napoli, and may still well make the move. Those three players, boys, what are your thoughts? Noni Madueke, Jack Grealish, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We happy?
Yes. Noni, don't mind as a cheaper alternative to a right wing, which would mean we're spending money elsewhere to strengthen another position. So he of the three, he would be my favorite to bring in. Jack Grealish, what I think of this. I just think he's not suited to Newcastle because he just party boy, massive wages, even coming on loan. Good player, but he's got a lot to prove, and I don't know if Newcastle is the place he's going to prove it. So that's why I ruled him out. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I just don't. Nothing against the guy whatsoever. I just think that why are we getting rid of Wilson to replace him with Dominic Calvert-Lewin? We don't need either of them, by the way. So yeah, he makes no sense. Even though he's a free transfer, but he would command high wages as well coming on a free transfer. Eddie could get something out of him, but I don't think we'll get enough out of him for me. So that's why it's an honor. But delighted.
Chris, commiserations.
I just get linked to this, don't I? I just get linked to this. But no, mate. No, do you know what? Let's be honest. It was welcome news. It was welcome news. I maybe I was almost mentally preparing myself as Dominic Calvert-Lewin because it made sense in so many ways, given the fact that, he's reasonably young still. He's English. He's Premier League experienced. He's on a free. So there's many reasons why I wasn't surprised that we were linked to him. But please don't anyone think that I was hanging my hat or hoping that we would get Dominic Calvert-Lewin. The only reason I was saying that, I would accept it or, find it palatable is if we were to bring in a second choice striker and Dominic Calvert-Lewin would end up being third choice. I could live with that almost. But yeah, in terms of the other two, we discussed Madueke on the last show, didn't we? And for me, he's a cheaper alternative to Elanga. Again, I don't think, oh wow, Noni Madueke. I still think there's so many limitations to his game. Pete, you mentioned in the last show, the fact that you weren't sure on his final ball, his crossing ability, and I think that's absolutely correct. So yeah, there's better targets out there, and if you're going to be paying 35-40 million for Noni Madueke on a good day, there is far better out there for that kind of price. In terms of Jack Grealish, I really rate Jack Grealish. I think he's a really good player, but unfortunately, he's out of our price bracket. Those wages are just absolutely ridiculous, and unfortunately, his better days are probably past him. So he just doesn't fit a Newcastle profile at all. I think on his day, he is a really good player, and I think he's proven that, especially at Aston Villa, and at times in small spaces for Manchester City, albeit not very often. But yeah. I'm glad to get them 3 names off the list. I really, really am, and let's focus on the on other names. But yeah, I think it's a positive, Pete. It's nice to be able to scratch 3 off the list.
Yeah, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, maybe 18 months to 2 years ago, with Wilson potentially going out, would have maybe made sense at that point. Certainly last season when we needed a striker, we were struggling. Not last season, sorry, the season before when we were in the Champions League. You probably would have took him. Not now. We're in a position where we're beyond that bracket now of that type of player, in my opinion. Noni Madueke, I actually, what the weird thing about it, Noni Madueke, I like everything about his game up until his final ball. Everything about his game, he's lightning quick, he's got the tricks, he can open up space, create opportunities. But his final ball is dreadful. And I don't know whether I'm just stung by what we had with Miguel Almiron, but I just need a winger coming in that's got a better final ball. I just am. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just my personal opinion.
I agree, mate.
I just need someone that's just got much better output than that. I mean, he creates himself some really good opportunities, Madueke, and then just fluffs his lines ridiculously, and I just don't get it. Something's got to click at some point. Oh my god, boys, I'm not showing you the videos yet. Jesus Christ, Daniel, I have never this guy twice now. I've been out with him. This guy knows how to party. Jesus Christ, I'm not even going to get into it because we're live. I can't possibly talk about it, and I'm sure Dan would want me to, but he is such a great guy. Really is a great guy. What a night. And yeah, we'll talk about that after a top table talk one time. Let's say.
Yes. Look forward to that.
But great to have you in the chat, Dan. Make sure you go and subscribe to Dan United's channel. Make sure you go and subscribe to all of his content. He'll be getting live and going live soon with that. So keep an eye out, and we'll be plugging it all summer when he does. So that's my thing with Madueke. Jack Grealish. I don't know what Jack Grealish we're going to get, because I'm going to be honest, Man City have ruined him. Ruined his natural ability of why they paid the 100 million, and I'm not quite sure we're going to get that back. And you know what, boys, you both said it, and I'll say it too. Can we afford to take that big of a risk financially on a player when you're not guaranteed to get that the output that could be potentially, could come to nothing? He's barely scored a goal or created any chances in the last year. Barely played any football. Like, we don't know what we're getting. So I'm, for one, am really happy, and I know a few others are really happy with that news too. However, a player that could well be coming through the door, boys. Oh,
that's a good point.
I'm Ross Wilson.
Yeah,
bloody good point.
That is a great point. I mean, we had to do that. That was the only way for us to get through PSR. So yeah. I would say, yeah, they've taken advantage of Newcastle United without a doubt. Because, funnily enough, great segue, Chris. Had we not had to have done that deal, we'd have had this man already wearing the kit.
Yes.
James Trafford. Now, it's already been said, boys, that deal was done. If you speak to the Geordie journals, if you've heard the Geordie journals, Liam Kennedy said it on his recent video, the deal was done. Around 16 million or so. He was already signed. The documents were signed. He was effectively a Newcastle player, and it got pulled at the last. The reason being was because of that deal. Talk to us. What you got?
I was just going to say the window's shut.
Good night, Chris. That's it. That's it. That's the final straw for Chris.
Oh God.
Sorry guys.
They're not slam shut. It normally slams shut.
It normally slams shut, and then in 4 hours' time they'll confirm a signing. That's normally what happens, isn't it? Yeah, maybe 11 o'clock.
And then open it again in 6 days. Yeah.
Just on that, boys. Let's be real here. This window, this small window, was never for Newcastle United. It was never for us. It's a stupid window, and I get the frustration.
Keep it open
with Newcastle fans. A small section of Newcastle fans on social media. I get the frustration about not getting deals done early doors, but this window was never for us. It was for those playing in the Club World Cup. One or two have benefited. Man United have benefited from this window. Fine. Our window, boys, is what's going to happen from the 16th. Up to the 30th of June, and then what happens from July to August. They're our windows. They're the ones we should be excited for. So forget this one. It's slammed shut. Who cares if you're a Newcastle fan? We need to be excited about what comes next. So just wanted to point or make that point before we move on. But James Trafford, boys, news coming out today from Sky Sports and from a good friend of the channel, in Sky Sports, Mr. Pete Graves. Newcastle United ramping up James Trafford talks. Eddie Howe keen to add competition for the number 1 spot. Size of the transfer fee under discussion. Thought to be around £30 million. Boys, get your opinions on James Trafford. Are you excited about this deal potentially moving forward and getting close to a conclusion? What do you make of, as well, the fee, 30 million? Do you think that's too much? Do you think that's a good price? Daz, what are your thoughts on those things?
I went back and watched our goalkeeper show. And I think in that show, I said, forget all the other keepers. We're going for James Trafford. Eddie is going back for James Trafford. And I'm glad he is, because from like where we were last year, and I was saying then, Like he'll come in and he'll get some games. He'll grow and he'll mold him into someone that can take over from Nick Pope and be number one. And now I'm saying he is our number one when he comes in, and he deserves to be our number one. And I think he'd be absolutely brilliant for us. I'm really looking forward to having James Trafford at Newcastle, and just what he can bring. He's youth as well, great age as well. Is James Trafford, and for now and the future, England number one going forward. Can you imagine? Look, we had even like going into the World Cup. For Tuchel, he could have Trafford, he could have Tino, he could have Hall on the other side, he could have Dan Burn, we may even have Mark Gay. He could have his whole defense there, Newcastle based, if he wanted to. The way it's potentially looking at the moment. But yeah, no, absolutely delighted that we're going to get on the fee. We in the last show when I did talk about that, that's what we mentioned the 30 million, where 30 million was mentioned. I think there's some wiggle room there on the fee. I think the last time I did say 23, we should go that. Maybe we should go a bit higher and get him for like 27 or something like that. I think we can get a bit off the 30. But bring him to Newcastle. I want him in. Be delighted if he's our first signing.
Absolutely, and he's on the bench tonight for England in the full squad. Chris, your thoughts about this? Daz reckons we can sort of negotiate a fee, maybe late 20s with potential add-ons. Do you think that's the right fee for James Trafford after a season, albeit in the Championship where he got 15, where he only conceded 15 goals in the whole campaign? Do you think that's the right type of fee to be getting James Trafford out of Burnley?
Yeah, I do. My 3 words to kind of wrap this up is get it done. I just want him to go and get it done. We know Eddie Howe's been after James Trafford for such a long time now. We've spoken on here, boys, haven't we, about how impressive his season was in the Championship last season. Absolutely brilliant. Great age, ticks all the boxes. Pete, how often have we said, we want a tall, commanding goalkeeper. We want someone with a bit of swag, a bit of arrogance, a bit of presence. And last season we saw that in James Trafford for Burnley. And, people will say, it's only the Championship, but the Championship is a difficult league. It's a really, really difficult league. And for Burnley to amass 100 points and for James Trafford to concede, 15, 16 goals, whatever it was, and break the record for clean sheets, it's fantastic. For me, I think 30 million is probably fair. If reports are, believed to be true, 12, 18 months ago, I forget how long it was, a fee was agreed with Burnley and it was in the region of £20 million. I think it's right that it's gone up because now James Trafford appears to have cemented himself as an England regular within the squad. He's had a fantastic season for Burnley. So for me, I think 30 million is fair. I would hope that the club would, be looking to do a deal of around 20 to 25 million with add-ons, maybe that first senior cap. Or I don't know if he's already got his senior cap, actually, I'm not sure. But, maybe 10 England appearances or something. Champions League qualification, another trophy, perhaps. You can include all these extras to get it up to 30 million by all means. But, for me, just go and get the deal done. 20, 22, 23 million rising to 30, I think would be fair. Because you're buying a player who's got such a high ceiling. He's a player who can only get better. I think working under Eddie Howe, he's only going to get better. He's going to have a better defence in front of him than he did for Burnley last season. I think the lads could really go on and become, England's future number one regularly and be a really, really top goalkeeper. So for me, I think 30 million's fair. I've got to be honest.
He's the next in line for me. I know that Dean Henderson's starting for England tonight and probably deserves it after his, success with Crystal Palace. But James Trafford, for me, I think will be very quickly. Does he sign for Newcastle United? I think he becomes very quickly the rival for Jordan Pickford. I'm excited by this deal. I think he's a top young goalkeeper. People have talked about today with Magic Mike not going to Chelsea, or they're going to go in for Trafford. I don't see it. I think the fact that we went all out to get James Trafford last summer will play into our hands. he knows that we want him.
Yeah.
That deal was done. I would imagine they've kept in contact with him throughout the year to ensure that this deal gets done. And those things matter to players when you really want somebody. And he'll be watching Newcastle United. He'd have been watching us lift the Carabao Cup. He'd have been watching us get Champions League football. And he'll be going, oh, I want a piece of that. I want a piece of that next year. So I think 30 million is absolutely the right fee. I think he's doubled in his quality in the last year. And it's an interesting, I'm just going to put this on, lads. I can't put them on simultaneously. So I'll have to mix through the two. I just want you to kind of have a look at the stats here. So this is Nick Pope, okay, linked to some good goalkeepers there, but just in general, he saves, penalty kicks, crosses stopped to high, actions outside the penalty area. He's got some good stats here, Nick Pope, this season. Throws attempted. We noticed this, boys. We talked about it before. I think I've mentioned it, that he does a lot more throws than he has touches of the ball with his feet. What's interesting about that, look at that in terms of touches here. They are a lot lower. But his crosses stopped are good, and all of his actions are strong that we already know. However, if we were to have a look at James Trafford, and yes, some people say it's a championship, but still, it's what you have to face on a regular basis. You're looking at the stats compared, and they are significantly better. And the thing that impresses me the most about this is his touches. So we want someone who can play with the ball. You want someone that can play with the ball. You've got someone there. And a lot of people last year were asking us the question, what's he like? Well, this will tell you that he's very, very confident and comfortable on the ball. And anybody that's watched him this season, I've watched him in a number of Friday night football games when they've been on a Friday night. Burnley played a lot, and he looks very, very comfortable. And the fact that he's in there in the mix with Diogo Costa, who's also excellent with the ball at his feet as well. You just go through his stats, and they are significantly better. I mean, the clean sheets, is outstanding, unbelievable.
I suppose one thing, Pete, though, he won't get as much time in the Premier League. They'll be on him quicker, but because it's a different level. But the other thing, Todd, stay away.
Absolutely. you just got there. Look, so the passes attempted in here. You can see that he's a guy that can play with the ball at his feet. You know that he's the guy that can make saves. He is very much an advanced goalkeeper. The one area that we didn't see a lot of, and it's because of this, it's crosses, something that Nick Pope is very good at. He didn't face many crosses last season, so that's why his stats aren't very good. But that'll be something that we'd need to take a closer look at next season. Can he be commanding in there? I believe he can. He's tall enough. He's physical enough to be that. That'll be something I'll be looking at. But everything else, in terms of his ability, the ball at his feet, in terms of him, his penalties are very, very good. His clean sheets, his save percentages, all the markings of what you want of a goalkeeper, you would want to have in James Trafford. So yes.
Hey.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, mate. Just to ask, I assume was that SofaScore? I assume it was SofaScore.
No, it's.
Was it not? Was it not? No. I just wondered what the. We always, it's like old school, isn't it? We always get the comparison in the graph of
That's your specialty, Chris.
Yeah. Well, let me. I'll take that out.
You have a look for that, Chris. But you also wanted to mention this, didn't you?
Wait, sorry, I've just clicked off. Wait there, one sec. Let's have a look. Yes, super chat, Luke. Thank you so much, mate, for the super chat. Much appreciated, mate. So Luke says pics emerging of Byrne chatting with Trafford pre-match. Oh, really? Hal must have bunged him a fiver. Bunged him a fiver to have a word. I really can see this one happening. Get in. Positive. I mean, obviously we haven't seen that, but thank you for the insight, Luke. Thank you for the insight. Very positive.
Absolutely. Good stuff all round. But yeah, James Trafford, hopefully we see movement on that. I believe after this game tonight, things could snowball because the players will be done for the summer at this point. At this point now, they'll either go on their holidays or they'll want to wrap up deals if they're about to move. So it could well be that we see something even potentially this week before he does go on his holidays. Fingers crossed. But James Trafford looks like he's the guy that Newcastle United are going to sign. Okay. Just a little snippet of something. We talked about Lucas Chevalier previously as a goalkeeper that Newcastle were interested in. He'd been linked a number of times. The Athletic did report that we were actually admirers of him, and it says that at the bottom. But obviously, we've decided to go with James Trafford. So just a little note to that one. And of course, as an additional goalkeeper, Fraser Forster on a free transfer for that academy quota is still a goalkeeper that we are interested in. So that's kind of all the goalkeeper situations ramped up. That would be interesting.
Yeah, that one there, yeah. Jonathan Davis, yeah.
He's been heavily linked with Italy all the way through. So if he's not keen on going to Italy, it would make you think that surely the Premier League would be the next line. And let's be honest, boys, if we're the next, if Premier League's the next in line, you would expect Newcastle to be at the table for that one. However,
but hang on, Pete, just on that, like Napoli have brought in Kevin De Bruyne, and you imagine he's going in there on decent wages as well. So if Jonathan David, who would be looking for decent wages, how can they manage everything like that as well?
Osimhen.
I don't know. Interesting.
But they're going to be selling Osimhen this summer.
Osimhen, yeah.
So
if he wants, he's going to go somewhere, I suppose. Yeah,
yeah.
Not Saudi by the looks of it.
Yeah, and nobody knows where he's going. I know Galatasaray are linked with him now because he's rejected Saudi, but he will leave before the end. He won't go back to Napoli, and I think that's where any signing with Jonathan David will be funded by whatever they get for Osimhen in terms of wages and transfer fees. So that's how it looks at this time. Could all change, but that's how the direction it's going in. But a little note on our own forward chasing. We've talked about this man, Joao Pedro, potentially coming to Newcastle United. It was ramped up over the course of this weekend. There has been some further updates since Fabrizio Romano talked about Joao Pedro's future being sorted quite soon. A couple of things to come out from this, boys, is that a friend of the channel, Graham Bailey, has now put a piece out today saying Joao Pedro is willing to play on the right side in a Newcastle role. Newcastle clearly a huge fan of Joao Pedro, but does that potentially change something? Possibly. Now, Daz, you had some interesting thoughts on this one, notably because Graham Bailey was talking about the fact that Joao Pedro could be going to Newcastle United. Talk us through this one, fella.
Oh yeah. No, I just thought it was interesting when I saw the bit that he played on the right. I was like, what did Graham say about him, man? Because I know we get a lot of comments about the show, Graham. About 75 comments, but Graham pretty much ruled him out. So he did rule out a lot of players first, but things can change, of course, as well. He also said that he won't play on the right. So interesting developments there. No, but yeah, it's great to see that moving seems to be kind of moving forward, gathering a bit of pace. He also said on our show that Brighton won't sell him, that they'll fight to keep him, but does not look to be the way. It seems to be the total opposite by the looks of it at the moment. That's the update.
The update as it stands could all change. You know what. Our conversations with Graham are like.
Clip it up. Play it too.
We'll keep an eye on them. There's no doubt about that. But look, Chris, I'll come to you on this one because it's looking like Brighton are almost kind of gearing up for a potential departure. Now, they've just confirmed a defender, Diego Coppola, but also a young 18-year-old Greek international, Konstantinos, and just got the here we go from Olympiacos for £34 million this afternoon. This is from Fabrizio Romano and, of course, Graham Bailey, and not Graham Bailey, Ben Jacobs, another friend of the channel. So, am I putting 2 and 2 together and getting 4, 2 and 2 together and getting 6? Could this mean that something is in the offing with regards to Joao Pedro? What are your thoughts on this, fella?
Yeah, well, like you, it piqued my interest as well, Pete, because, you know, most people will tell you that, you know, before you let a player go, you want to bring a replacement in. So straight away, if Brighton are willing to pay 34 million for this Kudus, who I believe was linked with Newcastle a few weeks ago, funnily enough. I don't know by who, but I
put him on
saw
the
his
poster.
name. Yeah. I've definitely seen his name before, and I mean, I was encouraged. Because it feels to me almost like, you know, Brighton are getting the ducks in a row, getting a deal arranged, and I suppose from their point of view, which is good for us, it's not like they're spending 70, 80 million on a replacement for Joao Pedro. They're spending 34 million, so you could argue that perhaps that will work in our favour in terms of arranging or agreeing a fee, should I say. You know, obviously, if they were bringing a new striker in for 80 million, it would then invariably it would push up the Joao Pedro price. But yeah, it got me excited, Pete. Not going to lie, because you know, Brighton bringing in a new centre forward almost feels like they're kind of, you know, washing the hands and saying, right, you know, he's going soon, so let's bring someone in as a replacement. And again, it's just another example, isn't it, of Brighton. You know, with that fantastic conveyor belt they've got and highlighting some of the best talent around the world. But yeah, from a Newcastle perspective, looking at it, I was encouraged because I thought, great, so they're bringing in a striker, which means that one striker could possibly go. And I'll be honest, Danny Welbeck was not high on my list. I was thinking to myself, it must be Joao Pedro. What I also found interesting as well, from the Graham article that you flashed up there earlier, Pete, you know, there was a suggestion that Joao Pedro, Eddie Howe might look to change his formation. But Graham suggests that Joao Pedro is now, you know, more than willing to play on that right wing. It's nice to know that players are willing to kind of play whenever the manager wants them to. That is a good trait in a player. But it does also raise eyebrows with me a little bit in the sense that is this the hybrid right winger that we were hoping for, in terms of, you know, having that player who can play on the right wing but also equally play through the middle or even play in a 10 in the case of Joao Pedro. I'm not going to ask you the question, boys, because I've asked it about 4 times now. But yeah, it just got me thinking as to, you know, whether or not this was a bit of a 2-for-1. I hope it's not. I hope that, you know, we do bring in that orthodox right winger. That is what I'm hoping. But to have a player who's equally able on both right wing, number 10, and striker would be brilliant. And I've got to admit, Pete, like you, I can't remember if you said it on the show last time or whether you said it after the show last time. I am liking Joao Pedro more and more every day. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited about the potential of him coming and playing for Newcastle United. You know what? That article that Graham Bailey, so many journalists, has put out with regards to Joao Pedro being accustomed to playing on the right and happy to do that. The talk of Eddie Howe maybe incorporating him into a style where he maybe plays number 10 or out wide on right. That particular article there with Graham Bailey makes me feel like he's got the right attitude and he wants to come and play for Newcastle United, and he's not fussed of where he plays. He wants to play in this team, and that fills with confidence. If that is the case, that's a massive positive for us. We want versatile players. We want Joao Pedro to be able to fill in on the right-hand side when needed, or fill in up top when needed, or fill in on the left because he can play there too. We want him to be adaptable in that situation. It's what I want to see from Joao Pedro is that will to want to come to us. It's very clear he wants out of Brighton. I didn't realise how bad that fallout was with the manager, and apparently Van Heck is Graham Bailey put in his piece. So there was a pretty big bust up, which means his future at Brighton is non-existent right now. He wants out. Could that mean, boys, and this is a question I'm going to ask you, because I've got an opinion on this. Could that mean that with his situation, the way he is at Brighton, could Newcastle benefit from this and potentially get the price down because they might want him out and rid of, so they maybe accept a lesser fee? Am I being too ambitious here, or is there a chance that could benefit Newcastle United because of his situation?
You are a bit, because you've got your black and white glasses on there, Pete. Because Newcastle will try and exploit it a bit as well. But don't you know someone else is going to get involved in it as well? But I think he'll see. He already knows what we can offer. He nearly joined the club before. Unless something crazy comes his direction, he sees the trajectory we're on, back in the Champions League, as well as that. At Brighton, he's used to rotation, because any other plays fancy football knows you can picking a Brighton player. It can be hit and miss sometimes, because they do tend to rotate. So he's because he will have to sit in the bench and bide his time, and at times as well, depending on what position Eddie actually plays him. But I think signs look positive on this one. I think probably more positive than the other big one that we talked about in that particular day. At the moment, that's more likely to happen sooner.
Craig Lee's coming with a comment. He's put, Pete, the club should be trying it on. Shyburn's getting out. Is that your thoughts, Chris, with regards to this? Am I being too ambitious, or are you telling me there's a chance? Are you telling me?
Yeah, do you know what, Pete? Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think there's a small chance. I think it works to Newcastle's favour rather than disadvantage. I think it works to our favour because, one, they look to have replaced him, which is good, and that's a tick. The fact that it's the best kept secret that he doesn't want to be there anymore, and Brighton don't want him there anymore. That it has to work to our advantage to some degree. But are we going to snag him for 30 million? No. It's going to still be a decent price. But let's put the shoe on the other foot. If all singing, all dancing, everything was well, I think you probably would be looking at the 70 million mark. Could we get him maybe for 50, rising to 55, 60? Absolutely. And as well, because there's a willingness on the club side and the players' side to get the deal done, hopefully there'll be no dragging of heels like we saw with Mark Gay. That's got to be a positive. They will want him out the door, and he will want to get out the door. So at least this is the price, and then you might be able to negotiate a little bit, and they'll be thinking, "Oh, just want rid of him, just want him gone." So there is a degree of it, but if you think we're going to get him for a ridiculously low fee, I would say probably unlikely. But the good news is I don't think the fee will rise and go silly, and I think it will get done pretty quick. So there is advantages to it, Pete. There is.
Yeah, I think he'd be gone from there before pre-season. Before they come back, they'll want a kind of clean slate from there.
Yeah. Just to answer, by the way, Andrew Walters, the young Turk playing for Real Madrid. I think you mean Arda Güler. I think that's who you're
Yes.
saying. I just thought I'd answer that very quickly.
Quality.
Now, he will be good. He will be good.
Yeah.
Quality player. I think his end of season where Ancelotti was kind of throwing him in and he was playing really well, I think that's probably ended any chance of him going on loan. I think it was all geared up to him maybe going on loan next season. And I do think he's a type of player that probably would have been in the mix for a team like us. But I think Xabi Alonso will want to use him, especially now the likes of Modric is gone. So there's one less creative player out that's gone. So they're going to need to replace that. And although they're not necessarily in the same position, they're going to need that creativity there. So I do think Arda Güler is probably going to be staying at Real Madrid, but hell of a player. For me,
Absolutely.
Joao Pedro, I think we can get done anywhere between 50 and 60 million. I would be accepting that.
Same.
Sign the deal, shake hands, get him in a medical, and get him in a Newcastle shirt. It's all prepped, boys. Brazilian, knows the boys, Joe Linton, Bruno. You know, he'll know a number of those players, not just the Brazilian boys, but you know, we talk about that transitioning into getting used to Premier League football and getting used to playing at that level. He's already got that. He's already got that pedigree. The settling in period is key. But I think you're right, Daz. He'll want to be out of Brighton before pre-season, and I think, you know, I still believe he could potentially be the first one that gets done. I know the stuff with Trafford could move quite quickly, but I think Joao Pedro could be the one that gets done. I think he's going to want his future sorted pretty quickly. So let's wait and see. In exciting times. I want to throw another name at you, boys. One that's been discussed recently, and you know, as far as over a year ago, and it's Jacob Ramsey, linked from Aston Villa. Now, I saw this first NUFC Gallagher on socials, and a lot of people dismissed it because it had a different Sky Sport on there, but it's actually the French Sky Sports version of the channel. And Sacha Tavaleri, if I'm pronouncing that right, he does a lot of reporting on European football, and he's the one that wrote the article. And that's where I then looked a bit deeper and found that article and found what it actually wrote. And he basically said that Newcastle United could be in for Jacob Ramsey. There are clear financial issues with Jacob Ramsey's club, Aston Villa. They need to move on players, and a fee of around 29 to 30 million could be enough to get Jacob Ramsey to Newcastle United. He can play left wing, but he can also play in a midfield three. He's played within both of those roles at Aston Villa under Unai Emery. What do you make of this one, boys? Do you think it's just a little bit of noise because Villa are trying to move players on, or do you think there's actually any truth in this because of our previous links? Like, what do you make of the Jacob Ramsey talk?
I think there's something in this, because this is Eddie Howe's transfer window. We're going back for Trafford. We're going back for Joao Pedro from 2 years ago or whatever many years ago it was. We're probably going to go back for Gay. And I can see us getting involved for Jacob Ramsey. I liked when Jacob Ramsey broke onto the scene first. I took notice. I thought he looked very, very good. This season he hasn't gone so well for him. I think he could have had a lot of injuries, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think once he can stay injury free, I think Eddie Howe can mold him into a decent player. I could see him going in there kind of instead, like, you know, when Joe Linton's missing and we put Willock in, I can see Ramsey going in there instead of Willock, so kind of playing in that kind of position. And if Eddie Howe wants him, I want him to, because if he can get back to where he was when he broke through, he could be a great addition for us. And then talk about taking advantage. If we can take advantage of the PSR issues that Villa may be having, yeah, why not?
Chris, well, what are your thoughts on Jacob Ramsey? Would he be the type of player that you want to bring in? Talking about sort of Willock and playing on that left-hand side, would he be your go-to to come in and replace the sort of Willock role in the team?
I don't want to come across as a snob, but for me, Jacob Ramsey is a very, 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 very slight upgrade on Joe Willock. I don't think he's a significant enough upgrade on Joe Willock from what I've seen. I've seen moments of, you know, real promise, you know, when he's played for Aston Villa, but I've seen moments of promise when Joe Willock's played for Newcastle. I haven't seen it consistently. And, you know, towards the middle/end of Villa's season, I noticed that, you know, as soon as the big boys come in, as soon as Asensio come in, as soon as Rashford came in, you then saw a hell of a lot less from Jacob Ramsey. And I think it's because both players were better than Jacob Ramsey. So for me, yeah, he's still young. Still lots to develop. I think under Eddie Howe, he could develop him. But I don't know. He doesn't get me excited. He doesn't make me think, oh, we need to go out there and get him. I don't think he's, For the money that Villa would want for him, I don't think he's a significant enough upgrade. And the fact, Pete, you mentioned that this link won't go away. It keeps getting mentioned. It does. So maybe there is interest in there from Eddie Howe. But I think the fact that there's such loud noise around him, that would suggest, again, I think this is something you said a few weeks ago, Pete, that would suggest that he's a player that Villa are happy to let go of. And we don't want players who other clubs are happy to let go of. We want players who clubs don't want to let go of. See Joao Pedro. I know, they want him out the club now, but I think it's because it's reached that point. But 3 weeks ago, or however long it was, Joao Pedro was not for sale. Joao Pedro was not on the table. Now, obviously, things have changed. They're the types of players that we should be looking at, players that clubs do not want to lose. And for me, I'm not saying Jacob Ramsey is a bad player. Jacob Ramsey is probably a top 8, top 10 Premier League player comfortably. But is he a top 4 player? Are we going to see the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City chasing after them? No. And for me, that if we want to be in that conversation, if we want to go to that place, I feel like we haven't. Not that we haven't got the time to develop these players, but I want players for now. I want players to have an impact now and be a significant upgrade on what we've got, not just a small upgrade. Yeah, like Rodgers. Rodgers would be, from what we've seen, a significant upgrade on Joe Willock. But are we going to get Rodgers? Probably not.
No, but if you think about our budget, right? If we go big on Joao Pedro, we go big on Trafford, we go big on maybe a right winger as well, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas we have to strengthen a right-sided centre defender, maybe like the pieces. There's only so much to go around, and they could allocate a percentage of the budget towards it. That's the way I'm looking at it. That's why there's a bit of a move or just talks about that. That's why it might make sense. But I know if the world's your oyster, then you'd be looking at someone totally different. And we didn't have to strengthen in so many positions. But I think because it's Eddie that's in power. He's going back for all the same players he's looked at before. So that's the way it's going.
And do you know what? Sorry, Pete, just before you come in, I totally get that. I totally get it. And it does make sense. Eddie Howe will have done his homework on Jacob Ramsey. He'll probably feel that Jacob Ramsey's got more to his game. And I'm not going to, poo-poo that idea. Maybe he probably has. And I think under Eddie Howe, he could probably get more out of him. One thing I will say, and I mentioned this to you boys, which I would happily accept. If you were to tell me that Newcastle were going to be in negotiation with Aston Villa for a swap deal in terms of Joe Willock going to Aston Villa and us getting Jacob Ramsey, to kind of a bit of a PSR loophole, if you like, a bit like what we saw with Aston Villa and Chelsea do between each other, what we did with Forest, something along those lines. If someone told me, oh, you're going to get 20 million for Joe Willock and you can pay 25 for Jacob Ramsey, I'd take that all day. I'd take it all day, but not as an outright. It would have to be beneficial towards the club, but I would prefer having Ramsey over Willock. But I get where you're coming from, Daz. I do, because you can't just go out and buy 5 top class players on it. I appreciate you can't do that.
Yeah, for me, if I'm taking a player from Villa, I'm taking a player that like I've already said, that they don't want to sell. Like Morgan Rogers is going to be a crazy amount of money to get out of Villa, regardless of their financial situation. But someone like Tielemans at 28 years old, I'd take him all day long. He's had an outstanding season at Aston Villa. I'd take him. I'd take Boubacar Kamara, who's been linked with Saudi. Absolutely. He's, I think, what was he, 25, 26, great age. Take him all day long. And add him to that midfield and add a little bit of steel. He's more of a defensive midfielder, solid, but you've then got a couple of options of playing Sandro there and giving Sandro a rest and playing Boubacar Kamara and being able to transition the team to keep it as effective as possible. And we know that Sandro can play on that left-hand side of midfield 3. He can play that role. Could he potentially be the Joe Linton replacement? And you can play him there because he plays on the left-hand side for Italy. So we can play that role. And then you've got Bruno on the right. You've got Boubacar Kamara in that middle there, and then you still being able to change players around, but still being massively effective in games. For me, that's what I'm going to. 5 goals and 2 assists for me doesn't get me excited.
No.
His injury record's not great either. He's had long periods out through injury. I think he's been slightly better at the back end of this season, but you know, we're swapping a very similar player for a similar player, like you said.
Yes.
And I'm not convinced it's the right deal that we should be doing. You know, Joe Willock's only a year older than Jacob Ramsey. Joe Willock's actually done a hell of a lot more in the game than Jacob Ramsey. So for me, us going and replacing Joe Willock with Jacob Ramsey doesn't quite feel right, if I'm being honest. I'd much rather use that money and go out and spend it more wisely elsewhere. That's where I see it.
Can I get it? Sorry, Pete. Can I interrupt this because I just want to go reply to Yano's comment, right? He says, if we're only going to sign Premier League proven players, we might as well get rid of the scouting department because we don't need them. The club could employ me, Daz, to identify the Premier League players. Now, the reason why I'm all in on Premier League players, if anyone's watched this since we started on it, I've been all in on European players. But this is an Eddie Howe transfer window. And when Paul Mitchell left, first thing I said is expect 75% of our signings to be Premier League based. And all the links have been with Premier League players because to me, Eddie's going back over the exact same trajectory he left before. And I'm backing him to go after that. We have no other choice. There's no point in us bringing another director of football now, mess everything else up, and we buy no players. We need players in. We need a squad to compete in multiple different levels, and including in the Champions League. So that's why I'm kind of backing him 100% to give him this chance. If it doesn't work out, who's going to pay for it? Eddie Howe's going to pay for it with his job. So that's why I'm getting behind him. But fair enough comment again.
It feeds into the point that we've just mentioned earlier as well, is that Eddie Howe will want his squad and team ready to go the first game of the season. He'll want the preseason to bed in with them. If you're buying players from the Premier League, you're already halfway there because they're already accustomed to the league. They already know what's expected. They know how we play. All it is transition them into to fit the system, getting their fitness levels up to where they want them to be. And the preseason is a perfect opportunity to do that. So it actually makes sense. If look, let's just rewind back to the beginning of last season. We had Paul Mitchell come in after Amanda Staveley-Meardad went. Paul Mitchell came in. It was a really disruptive summer. We didn't sign anybody. We had players like Gordon that was unhappy. Isaac not sure where his future was. Bruno a little bit, loss of confidence, lack of fitness. There's rumours now that he was expecting to go to Man City last summer. We were in a bit of turmoil, more turmoil than I believe we probably thought we were at that particular time. Eddie Howe wants a fast start next season. He doesn't want us to take 8-9 games to get up to speed in terms of playing the way we want to play. The best way to do that is by players that can fit into that system quite quickly and get them ready. And Yana just put Eddie still won't play with it. He might well not start them. But what has always happened with the likes of Botman, with Bruno, with whoever, Isaac, is that they have to play themselves into the team. And that's what every team should have. It should have competition. And that's what Eddie Howe wants. He wants everyone up to speed. He wants competition. And let's be honest, quite early on, we're going to be playing a lot of football. Champions League, then Carabao Cup, Premier League on top of that. It's going to be fast and furious. So we are going to need that squad to be ready. So I absolutely 100% back Eddie Howe to sign whoever he wants, whether they're all from England or not, because we need this squad ready to go. We need them chomping at the bit first game of the season, whoever they're up against, to get those points on the board. We need that. We're desperate for it. If we want to be fighting at that top table again, top 5 Champions League, it will not be easier than this season. It will be much harder. So we have to start better. We have to play better.
Yeah, I think there's gremlins in the system as well. The YouTube is having some kind of an issue. We've seen a drop off. Maybe it's because we're not signing European players. I don't know, but I think it could be YouTube having
They've had
the issue.
enough. Kevin.
They've had enough. That's it. We're on there. But also, there's no point in us sitting here talking about European players like we have done in the past. Because in the past, there was a chance we were potentially to bring them in this summer. We know that, and if I do get linked to European players, we will be discussing them in great detail. Pete has lined up experts from the different leagues that they come to. We have them sitting and waiting for the last number of years, but it hasn't happened. So we will be on that when it is. But we are where we are now, and most of our names are Premier League based.
Yeah, absolutely. And the gremlins are there. They've been there for most of the show, lads. The numbers have been dropping and then picking back up. So YouTube has got a bit of an issue right now. So don't worry too much about that. However, what you should worry about is angering Sophie, because she has demanded that we get those likes. I'm just going to steal the chat 1 second. There's 420 in the chat and only 143 likes at that point. She wants to get to 300. Make her happy. Give her that like. Get her to 300. She worked her socks off, bless her. So make sure we do that and get her those likes as well. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Couple of players to throw at you, boys, before we get onto some links to see out the show is this man, Mark Gay, keeps being rumored with moves. And it has been, Daz, a straight shootout between us and Tottenham have raised their interest in the last 4 or 5 weeks. But interestingly, from a really good source within Spurs, a deal for Mark Gay will be difficult to complete. Apparently, Mark Gay has told Spurs that he does not want to join them this summer. Does that fill you with confidence that Newcastle can get their man? Because there's no other team necessarily linked with Mark Gay at this moment. It is purely Newcastle United. Tottenham seems to have lost out in the race. Does that make you think that that deal could be in the offing sometime soon?
No. This is Mark Gay, who plays for Bologna in the Serie A, isn't it? That's what we're talking about, because we have to talk about European players. No, Mark Gay plays for Crystal Palace, right? No, I think it's still going to be long and protracted, this one, Pete, to tell you the truth. I still think it being I think we have to just go in with an offer and just stick by it, if we can't get it done, move on. But as we put up Diamande and Mark Gay the other day, last show, and all of us said, even though I wanted Diamande over Mark Gay, we all said, this is Eddie Howe, he'll want Mark Gay. But I think it's going to stretch a bit. I don't see this being the first signing. It should be, after all the talk of last summer, if that's who he wants to bring in. But no, this one will take a little bit longer, and he will hang tight for a while on him as well, because he put so much into getting him last year.
So Mark Gay seems to have turned down Tottenham. Newcastle are in the mix as a potential option. Daz thinks it might be something that goes on a little bit longer, but there are other names being linked. Now, if I give you the option, Chris, I'll come to you on this one. Mark Gay this summer, or this man that's been linked today, Fikayo Tomori of AC Milan, rumored to be wanting to come back to the Premier League. AC Milan not in European football. AC Milan open to sell the Serie A centre-back, the England international, but apparently has been offered to Newcastle United from AC Milan. We've got a good relationship with them. Sandro Tonali, most notably. Who would you take out of those two players? Mark Gay or Fikayo Tomori, who may well be slightly cheaper? Where would you go?
Well, I'll be honest, Pete. That was going to be my follow-up point. It would depend on the price. It would depend on the price. If we were getting Tomori for 20-25 million, possibly 30 million, and you were telling me that Gay was 40-45 million, that would play a factor. Don't mean to ruin your question, but I would feel the same about Malik Chow as well. Again, similar ballpark. Malik Chow even more so maybe because I think he's taller than Tomori. I could be wrong, but I think he's more a taller centre back. And is Tomori about 26, 27? Am I right in saying around that age?
27.
I think Malik Chow's 23, 24, isn't he? I think
he's 27. Tomori's 27. Malik Chow's, I think, younger than that. I think he's like
even younger than that.
Yeah, I think he might be 23. I've just had him a second ago. Where was he gone? So Malik Chow is 23.
Yeah.
And then Gay is
25.
25. I believe he's 25. Oh, 24, sorry. 24.
Right. Oh, okay. So similar age. I mean, Tomori's obviously the older one. But yeah, Malik Chow would probably be the one I'd go for in terms of price and stuff like that. But yeah, out of Tomori and Gahey, it's a really difficult one. Yeah, I think Pete, it solely rides on price. Because if it I'm just going to throw prices out here now. If you told me Tomori was 25 and Gahey was 45, I'd probably go with Tomori. Because, £20 million is a significant difference. So yeah, I'd probably go Tomori. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And we know how much as Daz mentioned earlier, we know how much Eddie Howe and his staff put into trying to get Marc Guéhi. So I think, and in fairness, Marc Guéhi is probably an even more attractive option because obviously he's been playing Premier League football recently. And not only can he play left centre-back, but you would imagine he can also play right centre-back, which is where we play him because he's right-footed. So you do get that advantage with Marc Guéhi as well. But yeah, I think price-wise, making the assumption it's 25 or 45, I think I would go with Tomori, personally. What about you, Pete? What about you?
I would go with Marc Guéhi. Just because I think his ceiling is probably higher than both Tomori and Chow, in my opinion. I think he's capable of playing at a higher level of his own performance compared to the other two. I think Tomori's been very, very good in moments at AC Milan. I think he's a good centre back. I think Eddie Howe could make him better. I do think because of him being slightly older, would maybe argue me against getting him. Look, I'm being really picky here. Like, if we ended up signing only one of those three, I'd be happy. But if we're comparing the three, this is what I'm going on. Marc Guéhi, I think the thing that stands out for me is when Marc Guéhi, what he produced at the Euros. In that pressure moment, being thrown in because he wasn't expected to start, and he did. I just thought he was outstanding, and it showed me that he could play in the pressure moments against the best players. Tomori has done it with AC Milan in the Champions League, but for some reason just isn't seen as an international player. That for me is a little bit of a concern. Malik Chow, potential is huge, but not had a great season with AC Milan. I'd have been expecting him to be commanding his position at the club right now, and he hasn't, and that worries me a little bit. But yeah, I'd be going with Marc Guéhi as a slight favourite to Tomori, and then maybe Malik Chow as a third. That's probably how I would rank them as a 1, 2, 3. But look, they've all got massive potentials in different ways. You bringing in Tomori, he's got Champions League experience, he's ready to go. Guéhi, he's won a trophy, he's played in a European final, he's got that pedigree, and then Malik Chow's got all the potential there to be a top centre back. So it's a tough one, but I think it goes back to the point that you made, boys, before, is that when we've seen a player and we've identified them and we've wanted them, even if we've not got them there and then, we do tend to go back to get those players. I do feel that's going to be the case with James Trafford, and I kind of get the feeling that's the case with Mark Gay, and that's why I'm almost tipping myself towards Mark Gay as that signing.
Yeah, and given all those list of players as well, and I know the one that wasn't on it is Diamande. That's the one I'd go for. But forget them all unless there's a blocker on getting Mark Gay, because I don't think Eddie will look even elsewhere until that. And then his hand will be forced to look elsewhere. Then he might look towards the European market, or players that have previously played in the Premier League as well, or something like that. But it is what it is for now.
It absolutely is. But we can definitely keep an eye on it. A couple of other links to players that have come out in the last couple of days that we'll just throw out, and we'll stick with the centre-back conversation. A player that we were linked with really tentatively before, but it's it's come out in multiple reports now, and it's with this Juventus centre-back, and it's Federico Gatti at Juventus. So look, there's been multiple reports of Newcastle having an interest in him, rumoured to be around sort of £29 million. Now, Federico Gatti, 26-year-old international, Italian international, can play centre-back, right-back. He's got a contract for a few more years, 2028 it runs out. But just a player that it just has popped up a few times now in terms of a link, but never really been linked with anyone in the Northeast circle in terms of journalists. So never really talked about from that point. But we have talked about him before, so one to keep an eye on. But and this one was a blast from the past. Do you remember who's being linked with this man? Even in Indica.
Yes.
Yeah. This was from Caught Offside that apparently the AS Roma defender is of interest from the likes of Man U, Tottenham, and us. He can play left back, centre back, as well. And apparently he's had a good season at Roma. But I just thought that was an interesting one.
Pete, was he previously in the Bundesliga? Is that when we were first linked to him? Was it Frankfurt? Yeah, Frankfurt. Yeah, I remember talking about him. So the fact he's gone from the Bundesliga to then Serie A and he's still equally impressive, that's promising.
He went on
seems to have played.
Go on, sorry.
He seems to have played all his youth, international youth football for France, and then switched to Ivory Coast. Yeah. So then that's another thing. The African nations, I don't think Eddie will go. Will he go for a player that's playing in the African? I presume it's on next year.
It's in January 26th. Yeah. This is why I'm actually, there's part of me that's pleased that we didn't spend as much as we did on someone like Brian Mbeumo, because he'd be representing Cameroon for January into February, and you already see it with the likes of Salah and Mane back in the day and other players. I think we need to be really, really careful, because we can't afford to lose players to the African Cup of Nations like other clubs can, because we will massively struggle. And let's not forget, boys, January for us next year is going to be bulk Premier League games. Champions League runs through January now, and you add the FA Cup. If we're still in the Carabao Cup, we'll be fighting on 4 fronts through January into February. We cannot afford to lose anybody. I think that, for me, is an absolute crucial talking point for why we cannot necessarily be looking directly at African players as our main first team starters next year, because we're going to lose them for too long.
He won't entertain it at all. Then I don't think that's rule that one out straight away.
Definitely. Another one that I think, Chris, you'd seen this one as well. Newcastle launched a 12.5 bid for the versatile PSG defender. He is, in fact, or had a loan at Leverkusen. But Nordi Mukele from PSG, right back, can play centre back, looking at a 12.5 million fee for him. What do you make of this one? I don't know how much you've seen of him.
No, I recognise him. I'll be honest. I recognise him from FIFA. I think he's been at PSG for a number of years. The fee's a bit concerning, because you would expect somebody from PSG to be worth significantly more than that. I can't say I've watched him extensively. He seems all right on FIFA. I've got to be honest. But yeah, it's a bit of a left wing link, because I don't think we've been linked with him before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't ever remember talking about Mukulele. But yeah, he's been at the PSG for a significant amount of time. Obviously, he must have something about him. But yeah, 12.5 million. I was a bit like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why they can't command a higher fee. Whether or not his contract's running out or not, I don't know. But yeah, I saw the link, mate. But I can't profess to know lots and lots about him. But the fact that he's managed to stay in that squad for a significant amount of time would indicate that he must have something about him. But I couldn't wax Liverpool to you over him. I've got to be honest.
Yeah. Anything from you, Daz, with regards to him?
No, I put it in our chat, but I didn't have any comment. He does play for France, or he has one cap for France. He's 27, 28 in November. I think it's way down the pecking order. Again, if Gay is blocked off some way, then it's looking at what budget we have left and what direction we go in. Yeah, I wouldn't be holding up too much hopes for this one, by the looks of it.
Yeah,
I can't remember seeing him play.
No, but more so a tentative link to us, I think, more so than anything significant. And I've just got a couple of names just to finish on, boys. Would you be happy, Chris? I'll come to you with this one. To begin with, would you be happy if Newcastle United went and spent their money on a right winger or someone that can play right wing, and it was this man, Harvey Elliott? Because there's rumours that he has dropped a hint that he could be potentially moving away from Liverpool this summer on international duty in the 21s. And as well, it has been reported that Newcastle and Wolves are potentially interested, and he's valued around 40 million. What are your thoughts on this? And I'll just give you his appearances and goals for Liverpool since he signed for the club. 147 appearances, 15 goals, 20 assists in that time. Not a bad trophy haul, though, on the back of that. But your thoughts on Harvey Elliott? Would you take him as your right wing choice at Newcastle?
I know he's referred to as Harvey Elliott here in Merseyside. We all affectionately know him as Pot Noodlehead. So that's his other name. Do you know what? Maybe I'm a bit harsh on him. Maybe it's because he plays for Liverpool, and maybe I always hold high standards for Liverpool, and I always say to my mates who are Reds, you should have a better player than him. You should be getting better than him. And I suppose that's maybe why I lean against him, because I'm a bit like, well, I criticize him all the time, and then if we signed him, I'd be like, oh, he's good that Harvey Elliott. I know they signed him from Fulham. He was a bit of a wonder kid, wasn't he? I think it was £4 million. He signed from Fulham. And yeah, I mean, when to be fair, whenever I've slagged him off, or whenever I've said, he's not good enough and he should be better, he's pulled some big moments off the back for Liverpool. He's been involved in some big goals. I know the stats there. He works out roughly a 1 in 4 goal of assist, G&A, which isn't bad for such a young lad. Probably a player that Eddie I would love to work with, because it is a case with him that he's probably got a lot more untapped potential, and that if he was a regular in the team, oh mate, don't. I've seen it before, and I was like, oh god. Yeah, he's a player with probably a much higher ceiling, and if he played regular football, he'd probably end up becoming an even better player than what he is now. I feel a bit uncomfortable paying 40 million for him, because to me, I think that's for a proven, finished article player, and he's far from that. He's far from that for me. If you could pick him up for 20-25 million, yeah, he's probably worth it. I'd probably be interested, but Liverpool probably won't sell him for that. And in fairness, the likes of a Wolves, a Palace, a Fulham, they will pay 40 million for Harvey Elliott. Would I be confident that he somebody put this in the chat, but they weren't talking about Harvey Elliott before, and I thought it was a really good point. Would I be confident if Bruno, Joe Linton, or Sandro Tonali were out? If Harvey Elliott came in as a replacement, would I be confident going into the game? No, probably not. And that probably tells you where I am with him. I think he's a decent player. You know, you mentioned about right wing. He probably can play right wing. I think he's predominantly a 10 or maybe an 8. That tends to be where Liverpool play him. And he probably could play out on the wing, and I think he has played out on the wing for Liverpool. But yeah, not the you know, if you were to offer me him or someone like Morgan Gibbs-White or Morgan Rogers, I would much rather the other two. But that maybe I'm being biased. Maybe I'm probably the wrong person to answer this question. But that's my thoughts on him anyway.
Daz, would you take Harvey Elliott?
No. I've never seen him start a game for Liverpool. He's always been coming off the bench, and every time he has come off the bench, and I'm hoping for Liverpool to lose, he comes and he gets a goal anytime I watch it. So like he has that knack in him of like a super sub, and I don't want to be buying a super sub, and I think he might lose. I don't know. Can he do it for a full game? Foxy says, I don't think Harvey Elliott has a position. Nothing really seems to suit him. Yeah, he's one of those kind of players, kind of slots in a various different positions. And I don't think we need to be. We can bring players like that through our youth system. We don't need to be buying and spending 40 million on a player like that, and also give our youth a chance. So yeah, it's a no from me. I could see maybe. I don't even think Eddie Howe would go for him. Maybe because he's English and he could think he might get more out of him, but not really for those that kind of price. Hasn't played enough, like started enough games to see what he can do for a full game. For me, but great super sub, and that's in a good Liverpool team as well, of course.
That comment there from Foxy just kind of
Pete,
solidifies my opinion on this. I wouldn't take him personally. I'm not sure that he's ready to step up to a team like Newcastle United and be the main man and play week in, week out. It's okay coming off the bench and impacting games, but starting and being expected to perform is a different story. And the fact is that he hasn't dislodged any of the players, whether he's been in an 8, a 10, or on a right wing when he's played for Liverpool. And other players have come into that team and been signed and took his potential spot, which makes me think he's probably not the player that we think he is. You always see it with top teams. They have these players that have moments like Divock Origi, for example, was the classic example of that. Divock Origi would be the super sub that would win matches for Liverpool time and time and time again. When he gets the opportunity to go to a decent club and start week in, week out, he does absolutely nothing. And his career's fizzled out off the back of that. I'm not saying Harvey Elliott is at that level, but I worry that he could potentially be that guy. And for me, that is why I would not take Harvey Elliott at Newcastle United. Just my opinion. And for 40 million, not a chance. If he hasn't got even a position in specialist position, even more reason to not sign him, because we need a right wing specialist. We need someone that can play there and play well there. We can buy a Joao Pedro to play there on occasion, but mostly be a backup to or an alternative to Alexander Isak. But there's a reason why we're linked with Joao Pedro and Anthony Elanga, because we want both. We want a specialist right winger, and we want someone that can play in that position potentially as an addition as well. So not for me. Not for me. But last one from me, lads.
Pete, just before you move on, Pete, there's a lot of love for Harvey Elliott in the chat, and people are saying he's an upgrade on Longstaff, which he absolutely is. Cannot disagree with that. Stephen Harker says, Chris, super subs are what we need, game-changing impact players, although there's better out there. I think you've answered it there, Stephen. You know, I think he would be a good player to bring off the bench, absolutely. But the problem is, which Pete kind of, you know, summed up nicely there at the end, if you're going to be bringing in an impact sub or someone who can come off the bench and do something, 40 million's an awful lot to do that. You want those specialist players who are going to come in and really have that, you know, impact. And when they do come into the team, or when, you know, a player's out and they start a game, you want to feel that confidence. And the fact as well, just to wrap it up, the fact that Curtis Jones seems to be preferred to Harvey Elliott or trusted more than Harvey Elliott says it all for me.
Absolutely. Get Sophie a target, please. She's got less than 20 to hit that 250 target. Come on, people. It only takes a second. Give her those likes. Get her up to 250 so she goes.
Do it for Sophie.
Do it for Sophie. Last one, boys. For me, this man, it just keeps getting linked with Newcastle United consistently, and it's Mohammed Kudus. Again, being linked with Newcastle United. Again, talked about, and interestingly here, boys, talk about a negotiation of a reduced fee for West Ham to let Mohammed Kudus go. In your opinion, boys, could we potentially get that deal done, as it says in the Football Insider? Could we negotiate down from the £75 million mark? And if so, what would be the price to get Mohammed Kudus out of West Ham and into that right wing at Newcastle United, Daz?
If they negotiate down to 40 million, fair enough, but I don't think that'll happen. And I'd rather Elanga than Kudus. Anyway, but I don't think, I don't know how much were we linked with them in the past. I know we talked about him a lot before, but there wasn't as solid links as it was with Elanga, for example, as it was for Joao Pedro and attacking players. So no, they're not going to go from 75 million down to 40 million. So, no. And yeah, there's a good point here. Is he on our way to AFCON as well?
They didn't qualify.
No, they didn't qualify. Okay.
Oh, bloody hell, I didn't know that.
So he would be available all season if we signed him.
Okay.
Interesting one to consider. Chris, to end off your opinions on Mohammed Kudus, who would you rather? Dad said he'd rather Elanga. Who would you rather out of Mohammed Kudus or Elanga as an option? If they could be negotiated around the same price.
Yeah, if they were negotiated around the same price, I would probably rather Kudus. I think Kudus technically is far better than Elanga. But on the other hand, I don't think Kudus is as defensively minded as Elanga. I think Elanga would give you more defensively than what Kudus would. Kudus is I wouldn't call him a luxury player. That's probably harsh. But, you know, I liked what William Smith said when he says that he runs too hot and cold. We've seen a big drop-off this season, a big drop-off. There can be various reasons for that. People will say it's because, you know, he's got one foot out the door. Maybe you know, he's down tools. But again, does that appeal? Does that appeal to bring in a player like that? Probably not. So that could be seen as a disadvantage. I don't know. It's a funny one. I think if they were both, if you told me that Mohammed Kudus was available at 50 million, who would I rather spend 50 million on? It would be Kudus, because I think he's got the potential to be an absolutely fantastic player. If you know he's willing to be coached and if he's willing to listen to instruction. But yeah, I cannot see West Ham dropping that low. I think they would still want at least 60 million for them, maybe even 65, and that feels too much. I don't think he's that good, or certainly, sorry, tell a lie. I don't think he's proven himself enough to warrant that price tag. I mean, 75 is ridiculous. And the reason it's 75, lads, is because not last season gone, but the season before, he was looking like a £75 million player. And this season he is not at all. And I think that's where West Ham have come unstuck a little bit. And no wonder they're willing to negotiate, because I bet everybody is balked at that 75 million price tag and gone, you must be having a laugh. That's not going to happen. Whether or not Eddie Howe's interested, I don't know. That's something we won't know unless obviously we enter into discussions with them. But I think I would be happy to go up to 50 million for Kudus. But any higher, I think would be a bit of a risk, in my opinion. What about you, P? What are your thoughts on Kudus?
I rate Kudus. I think he's a really good technical player. You know what, lads? I think with Kudus, I actually think that he expected to leave last summer. I think he expected to leave when he was linked. Oh, who was he linked with? Was it Arsenal or Man City? He was linked with one of those big teams with a move in that they were going to come in and pay his release clause. Because remember, this will be the second season that he's had that release clause. And I can't remember whether it was Arsenal or Man City, but one of them were heavily linked with potentially paying that release clause, and then they didn't.
I think it must have been Arsenal, Pete, because obviously Man City were heavily linked with Paqueta. And it wouldn't have been a double, would it? Wouldn't have been a double.
No. And so that's where I think maybe we've seen that dip in his performance. I don't think he expected to be at West Ham. West Ham weren't in European football. I think whether he's sulked or whether he's just on a bit of a downer off the back of that, I think he absolutely wants out this summer. And I do think that when he moves, I think you'll see him playing better. West Ham have had a poor season, poor management, poor organisation, poor signings. And I think he at times when Bowen's been out and Paqueta's been out, he's had to carry the can. And I think I just think he's underperformed because of that. I think if Newcastle signed him, Eddie Howe would get him playing back to the level that we saw 2 years ago. I actually think his ceiling is higher, even maybe just slightly higher than Alanga's. But Alanga's had the better season and is coming off the better season. So it's a tough one. I'd be happy with either. I think you're probably paying a similar fee. I think that we could get Mohammed Kudus negotiated down to about 55 million. But I think it's one where you'd have to wait later on in the window.
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting him for 55 million now. 55 million. I think you could get him and Alanga for a similar price. And to be fair, if we were to negotiate either one of those, I'd be happy with either. But I do think that Mohammed Kudus, having played at a high level with Ajax and then come in and played so well with West Ham, that it'd probably be a slightly higher ceiling. So that's probably who I'm slightly nudged towards.
Speaking of West Ham, I thought the Potter managerial role was just to the end of the season. Did they extend it or make it permanent, or was it always permanent? I thought it was just a kind of to tie them over.
I think it was initially rumored to be end of the season, but I'm pretty sure he signed either a 2 or 3 year deal in the end.
Yeah, he seems to be full time now.
But yeah, he's definitely still there. He's definitely still managing.
Oh, he's still there. Yeah. So it's an unusual.
Boys, that's it for names for me. Yeah. So unless you've got anything else to throw out there, it's a talking point.
I mean, there's a few questions. If you want me to hit a few questions, there's a few interesting ones earlier on. Actually, I can throw a few questions out if you boys want me to.
Yeah, rapid fire. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's do rapid fire. A few. Let's see. 9 NUFC says realistically, it looks like Ramsey, Trafford, Gahey, Pedro, Alanga out. Alanga, and then out. It looks like Longstaff, Willock, Wilson, Target. Would love to add an Uche, Bob, or McAtee too. So yeah. I mean, they're certainly the rumours. They're certainly the rumours. 9 NUFC. They're all the names that are being linked at the moment. Let's see. Oh yeah, I liked this one. This was from Stuart Montgomery. Thank you for tuning in, Stuart. Stuart asks, just wondering, who would your top 3 signings for the window be? So let's work on the assumption, boys, of the 4 positions, and then you've got to pick 3. Goalkeeper, centre-back, right winger, striker. Who would be your top 3 signings as you sit here now on this show? Which 3 names would you like to see come through the door? Go for it.
But they can be unrealistic because we know why he's not going near them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So don't be saying like KK. I know you'd love to, but
yeah. Okay, I'll say Bueno, right wing, but it's not going to happen. I'm going to say Trafford for the keeper though. I still want Trafford no matter what. Now I'm all in on him. On striker, I'm going to say Sesko. I would love if we could get Sesko, but that's not going to happen either. What was the other position? Right-sided centre back. I'm going to say Diamande.
Okay. Pete, what about you?
Mhm. Okay. Ooh. I would take Trafford in goal.
Mm-hmm.
I would take Edison in midfield.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I would take.
We weren't doing a centre midfielder, Pete, but I'll let you have them.
We're cheating now. Yeah, go on.
Did I? Well, was I not supposed to say midfield?
No, but you can have them.
Okay, right. Okay. I'm going to go. By the way, before we get cooked up for this is not what we're actually believing we're going to get. This is just an opinion.
I love these quick fire questions.
I'm going to go Victor Gyökeres up front.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go Joao Pedro on the right. I would sacrifice a natural right winger to allow Victor Gyökeres up front. That's what I'm going for.
Okay. I'm going to say James Trafford in goal. I think the fact we'll say James Trafford in goal. I think we just get that deal done. That deal needs to get done, and I'm actually quite excited about the prospect of signing James Trafford. So yeah, I'm more than happy with James Trafford. For the striker position, I'm going to say Joao Pedro. I've really come round to. I poured a bit of cold water on that initially, didn't I? Because I was a bit like, I don't know about his attitude and whatever. But I'm thinking now logically of the player, the fact that we looked into him extensively, didn't we, when he was at Watford? The Brazilian link, the Premier League experience, the great age. Too much adds up for me. So I think he would be a really, really good player. So I'm going to say Joao Pedro. The right winger frustrates me a little bit, really, because I'll be honest, there's nobody outstanding. I'm thinking of the names we've been linked with, and rather than throw an outlandish one, I don't know on the right winger, because I would have said Ryan Cherky. That's what I would have said, but I don't think we're going to be signing him anytime soon.
Barcola?
Well, yeah. I mean, he'd be lovely, wouldn't he? He would be lovely. I'm not going to say Kubo. I'm not going to say Kubo. Don't worry about that.
You know what I'm going to throw out there, boys? And I'm going to throw it out there because I had him in here as just a topic of conversation. Okay. I'm going to throw this man out. Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic had a really good season on the right. Can play on the left as well for AC Milan. I think you could get him at a reasonable price. Not in European football. I would take him. Yeah, as an alternative.
And you get him at a reasonable price as well, wouldn't you? And then for my right centre back, I'm gonna go with Malik Chow. Someone we've had an eye on for a while. I like his profile. I think he would complement Sven Botman really well. Do you know the only thing that's turning me off a little bit about Mark Gahey, and we've spoke about it a fair bit. Hey, well done, Sophie. Well done. Thank you.
Well done,
thank
Sophie.
You for everything, Sophie. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for clicking.
Yes, thanks for everyone for clicking, of course. Yeah. The only thing that turns me off a little bit about Mark Gahey is the height. You know, if Mark Gahey was 6'3", I think we'd all be all in on him. That's the only thing where I think I would like a tall centre back. But yeah, so Trafford, Gahey, Joao Pedro, and who did I say is my right winger? Who did I settle on? Can't even remember now. I
don't even know if he did settle.
Do you know what? I'll throw a name in there. Kulusevski. Dejan Kulusevski. I know he's been playing centre mid for Tottenham, but we can play right wing. And you've still got that Swedish connection with Mr. Isak. Yeah, I'll say Kulusevski. Right. Yeah, this is a bit of a mad one, isn't it? If you boys heard this, apparently Juventus Ellie on the transfer list.
Yeah, they have. But to be fair, it was rumored even before the deal was activated that if it was activated, they'd put him on the transfer list again. I think the fans haven't been happy with him. Obviously, Juventus, I think, have got a new manager now who
Yes.
may not fancy him as a player. It's really harsh on him. Well, I think look, it is what it is, but it's great business for Newcastle United. It's not often we do say that in terms of getting rid of a player, bring him in for free, get him 20 odd million for him. It's excellent business for Newcastle United. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Much appreciated. But no, it is great business, Pete. Great business. We're gonna look back on that one fondly, aren't we? A yes/no answer, boys. A yes/no answer. Lee Jones says, "Would you be happy by the end of the window if we signed Trafford, Ramsey, Gahey, Alanga, and Pedro? Yes or no?"
Yes, I'd be happy with that. That's the way it's looking. Are we missing out on anyone there that we've? And maybe I wouldn't mind us offloading a few as well, and maybe getting a surprise with that, please.
Pete?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. There are lots of good names coming in, lots of work to be done with some of those players. But yeah, I'd be happy with that.
And more importantly, Eddie Howe would be delighted with that.
Yeah, he would. The only player I think missing from that list for me is probably Marcus Tavernier. That's probably the only one missing. That was a joke, by the way, in case anyone hasn't seen the Graham Bailey show. That was a joke. Paul Malloy. Paul asks, who's your money on for first signing? It's either Joao Pedro or James Trafford. Which one do you think it is?
Trafford. I think it's going to happen first.
Good question.
I would go for someone different. I would go Joao Pedro. We've got one of each, though.
Yeah.
The poster's ready for both. If anyone's wondering,
we're good to go. Yeah, I think I would go Joao Pedro. Only because I think Brighton will be desperate to get him out, and maybe Burnley will just try and cling on as long as they can. Craig Lee, Bastos. I wonder if he's still in that hotel.
He could
Someone
be.
needs to go check on him.
Travella, the Swiss guy, Swedish guy, or no, the Swiss guy, whatever his name was, I can't remember.
I know, I can't. What was his name?
Or is it? Oh, I can't
believe I've forgotten it. It was like the running joke, wasn't it? Yeah, someone, the Swiss guy who we were meant to be signing, and we were asking
his initials TB.
Was it Tranquillo?
Bonnet.
Like that.
Bonnet.
Yeah.
That was
I think he was like, was he like Danish or something? Danish, Norwegian?
I thought he was Swiss.
Something. Yeah,
I don't think he was Swiss.
Like no,
Bonnet.
Yeah.
I can't even spell his name.
That was a blast from the past.
Tranquillo Barnetta. He would link to every window.
Yeah. Lovely comment and question from Tony Selby there. Thank you very much, Tony. Tony says, "Hi lads, great content. Love your work." Thank you very much, Tony. Tony says, "Does it not concern you that a striker is on hold until Wilson's future is decided? It says to me, if Wilson stays, nothing will happen in the forward area." How do you boys feel about that?
I don't believe that. The fact that we're quite heavily linked with Joao Pedro, and there's clearly a willingness to get him in, who is likely to play in that position, tells me that they're already planning to bring one in regardless. I don't think it's either a Callum Wilson stays or Joao Pedro comes in. I think it'll be Joao Pedro comes in regardless, and then we'll deal with whatever happens with Callum Wilson afterwards. I'm not buying that for a second at all.
Out of respect to Callum Wilson as well, there could be like giving him time to sort out a new club before then announcing he's gone officially and him going somewhere else.
Yeah. We're going to go back. Talking of the Graham Bailey show, we're going to go back to what we did on the Graham Bailey show. So, boys, I only want a number from you, please.
Okay.
Clouds asks, rate this window. So it's out of 10. 10 being these signings are the best signings we've ever made. 1 being these are the worst signings we've ever made. So, Pete, if I was to ask you for a number out of 10, what would you rate Elanga, Gahey, Pedro, and Trafford?
Overall,
Yeah, out of 10 for the 4.
8.
8 out of 10. Daz?
I'm going to say 8 as well. 8 was there someone else in the other list you gave me a few minutes ago?
Jacob Ramsey.
Oh yeah, I go up to a 9 there then.
Are you giving this 9, or would you have given?
I'll give this 8.
I'll
give this 8.
Okay. Very good. Gini Esteban Alden, I think he makes a really good point. Best midfielder in Serie A, Tijani Reinders from AC Milan, cost Man City 44 million. There's great value for money outside of the Premier League, and you can add Ryan Cherky to that as well. Gini Este for 34 million.
We're really going to be relying on Eddie Howe hitting the ground running, gelling the players we do bring in, assume it's the players that we're talking about, and getting more out of them than's currently in them today, that to try and compete.
Yeah.
And this is why he wants those players in early. He wants them in for pre-season for that reason. He knows he needs to get to work with them.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 more comments, boys, and these come from long-standing members. So massive shout out to both. Trulls, thank you very much for being a member, mate, for 3 long years. So thank you very much, Trulls. Trulls says, I hope we get a marquee right winger, but I can't see it, to be honest. Trulls, you're going to make me ask the question now. Is Joao Pedro potentially the right winger? Is it, or do you believe if we sign Joao Pedro that we're going to bring in a right winger as well, boys, a marquee right winger as well at that?
No. So are you saying then that if we bring in Pedro, we won't bring in Elanga?
A marquee right winger, yeah.
You wanted someone other than Elanga? I think we bring in who we said already. So if Truls is not classing Elanga as a marquee right winger, then no, it's not happening. I don't think so. I think not this window, not with the way it is set up now.
Pete?
Yeah, I think we bring Joao Pedro in and a right winger. I don't think Joao Pedro will be the marquee right winger. I think he'll be an alternative in both the forward line and the right wing position. I still think we bring in a specialist right winger.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I saw something. Sorry, Chris. I saw something today. I think it could have came from Graham as well, but something that Forest are saying they want 60 million for Elanga. So yeah.
Well. And this is a nice one to finish on. And Dave Bullman, thank you very much for being a member for 21 months, mate. Much appreciated.
Right,
Big Dave. Dave says, and this is a nice wrap up, boys. Out of all the players linked, who is the one? Come the end of the transfer window in September. Who is the one player you're hanging your hat on, and that's the one you want?
Knowing the list we have there, and knowing what Pete's going to say, and knowing Dave, because I met him in Galway for the Brighton match, I'm going to say Trafford. I just think Trafford can. I'm just kind of settled on Trafford now, and I think it'll make a big difference to us going forward. I know all the other positions are more exciting, but Trafford, I think, playing out from the back and stuff as well, I think that's something that will bring a new dimension to our game.
Very good point, Daz. Very good point. Pete, yourself?
The one that I really want, we're not linked with, so I'm not going to say his name. But what I will say is I am now all in on Joao Pedro.
Yeah. I'm kind of stuck in the middle of you both. What's the expression? Like a rose between two thorns, I think it is.
Ben Godfrey, Chris.
But no, I'm on the side. I'm between Trafford and Pedro. Do you know what, Daz? You've swayed me. I'm going to say Trafford. I'm going to say Trafford purely for what you said. I think it will be transformational to the team having someone like James Trafford in between the sticks. So I'm going to say James Trafford. But I'm not going to cheat. But equally, I would really love Joao Pedro as well. So yeah, and that's the questions, boys. That is the questions.
That is it for the show. Right, that's it. Yeah, well, let's bring it to a close. Thanks everyone for watching. Catch us on the next one. Thanks everyone for smashing the likes. Make sure you smash them on the way out as well. We'll sign off with a bit of Radiators to see us out. Good night, everyone. Catch you in the next one.